You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hey, and welcome to Unlock Your Life. We appreciate you being here. It means a whole lot to me. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for investing in yourself. Today, we're going to be talking about a myth. The myth is, I can't help the way that I feel. Who here has heard that? I know I've heard that. You've probably heard that. And in a way, it's true, right? You can't totally help the way you feel. You got emotions that are bubbling up inside of you, and you're angry, you're sad, whatever. But what if those emotions are not serving you? What if they're not helping you? Can you help the way that you feel if you want to feel differently? Most negative feelings revolve around fear. And there's three kind of major tenets that I've identified, at least in my life. The fear of failure, the fear of success, and then the fear of others. And I want to kind of dig into each one of those with a little story. Fear of failure. About a year and a half ago, I joined this mastermind group. It's called the DM Family. Mark Evans is the leader, and there's 35 guys in there. They're all running high-level, seven-figure businesses, great guys, and I really enjoy being in the group. And something I noticed is they were all building social media platforms in some way, shape, or form. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. They were all kind of building a following, building a voice where they could share their thoughts and ideas and be a giver, a content creator rather than just a consumer. So I thought, maybe I should be doing that. Mark really encouraged me to do that. And yet I didn't do it. I was nervous about it. I was scared about it. I thought I could create a Facebook group about multifamily. I know a lot about multifamily. That's kind of my specialty for the last 4 or 5 years. And for whatever reason, I just thought nobody is going to join. I had been active in other groups, posting in there, getting a lot of good feedback. But I just thought, man, nobody's going to join this, or this might be something that I start, and then after a few months or weeks, I just give up on it. I lose interest. I quit posting, and it falls by the wayside, and I, quote unquote, fail at it. And I really had to stop and think about that. Like, what is the worst thing that could happen if I start a Facebook group and nobody joins it? Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. It doesn't matter. I just shut it down, and that's the end of that. Like, nobody knew about it, right? Nobody joined it. Nobody knew about it. Not too big of a failure. So who cares? There was my first kind of thought laddering away from that negative thought. Secondly, I was thinking about, what if I quit? Well, if I quit, I'll probably have a good reason. If I quit, I won't want to be doing it anymore. If I quit, why would I want to continue on with something that isn't serving me or serving the people that I've created it for? So it's not going to be a bad thing if I have to shut it down. Like, it's part of life. Things grow up, things die away. It's okay. And then I started thinking about, what if it's great? What if it works? What if I'm able to monetize it in some way? And I thought about, man, there might be a lot of people on there that they have a deal and they need a partner. They need somebody to help them get this deal across the finish line. There might be people that they need money, right? They need me to invest in their deal. There might be people that need to learn multifamily, and they could learn it, and man, I could change their life. And this information could change their life. And that would build a new relationship. I might make new friends through this group. I might be able to create a mentoring program through this group. Oh, there might be people that they see what I'm doing and they want to invest in my deals. There was a whole lot of upside, very, very minimal downside. And the downside was mostly just in my head. So back in October of 2020, I started off the group. And now, we just had our 1-year anniversary, and it was crazy. I mean, we've got 22,000 people in this group now. We've got 350 people in a mentoring group that we have. We've raised millions of dollars from investors out of that group. We've helped close dozens of deals have come out of that group. I've gotten personally deals out of that group. I mean, it has been a huge blessing. And so the ability to change the way that I felt about that and feeling afraid of failing at that venture putting myself out there, if we're going to get to that, fear of others. But that was probably one of the bigger things, was I was afraid of putting myself out there. And so once I overcame that, a massive opportunity arose out of that. So I want you to look at something that you probably want to do, you think you should do, you might want to do, but you're afraid of doing it because you might fail at it. And identifying each of those tenets, like what are those thoughts, what are those sentences that you're telling yourself in your head? Well, think for a minute what success might look like. And I'm talking massive success. Let's say you're making not $100,000 a year, but you're making $100,000 a month. Or let's say you're even making $1 million a month. You know, on the surface, okay, awesome, cool. And yet, how is that going to change your relationship with your wife? How is that going to change your relationship with your children, with your family, with your friends, with everybody in your circle that you know right now? It's going to change. The people you hang out with, the things you talk about, the opportunities, the way you travel, the way you live, everything will change, right? And you may not want that. Your subconscious definitely does not want that unless you train your subconscious to want differently. Because when you reach different levels of success, you're going to have different problems, and you're going to have new problems, and you're going to have different friends, and you're going to have new friends. And some of your friends that you have now, you're going to move beyond. Even some of your family members that you have now are going to move beyond. Shoot, your relationship with your spouse could even change drastically. I mean, it happens. This stuff is real. When people start getting massive amounts of success, there's a lot of moving parts and pieces with that. And you probably are subconsciously trained to think that some of those are going to be bad. You know, think about every TV show, every movie. The rich guy is always the bad guy. You know, everyone was good until they got money and money changed them. Or the evil corporations that are polluting the environment and causing death and destruction, and big pharma and all this stuff, this narrative that we hear of money is bad, money is evil, money will change you. You're going to have to sacrifice your integrity to get money. You're going to have to sacrifice your relationships to get money. You're not going to be real anymore. Whatever it is, there's a ton of that you probably don't even know rolling in the background. And that's where this fear of success can bubble up. Okay, so moving on to fear of others. So we talked about fear of failure. We talked about fear of success. Fear of others. I think this is one of the hardest ones to get our minds wrapped around, because we're so conditioned to play nice, to be a part of society, do what you're told, get along. And although those skills are definitely needed, definitely important, there comes a point where we are not living a life true to ourselves, and we're living a life that others expect of us. And that is a huge regret. And I don't want to have that regret. So in my life, I wanted to get a supercar. About a couple years ago, I started looking at Lamborghinis and Ferraris and that kind of thing, that level of car, and wondering, how could I afford this? How could I buy something and not lose a whole lot of money? How much are the entry-level cars, and on and on and on. And you may not be into supercars, but I was. I thought, this is cool. That would be really, really fun to have one of these. But then I started thinking about the flip side, right? Well, you don't need that. You're really not that into cars. That's a lot of money. That's a waste. What are people going to think? What are people going to say? And so I tabled the idea. And I tabled the idea for a few years. I really just I was in a Facebook group learning about the cars, but I really wasn't pursuing the goal. And later on, it came back up, and it came back up in a discussion with some of my high-level business friends. And they broke it down. They're like, Jennings, how much would that car cost a month? I'm like, I don't know, like $1,500. And they said, well, do you have $1,500 in disposable income every month that you could use for that car? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not that big of a deal to me where I am right now. So why don't you get it? And that was a really good question. It was like, it wasn't really about the money anymore. It was more about something else. And so I had to dig a little bit deeper. And I started to think about, well, man, what would my mom and dad say about this? If I roll up in this Ferrari What are my mom and dad going to say? What are the people in my town going to think of me that have known me for years? Start thinking about my real estate investors. Man, they're going to maybe think that I'm embezzling their money to buy this supercar. They probably wouldn't like that too much. I don't know. I want to keep like a low profile with that. Man, my neighbors, like I don't live in a supercar neighborhood. What are they going to think about this? And so all these thoughts start rattling around in my head. And I realized, Jennings, you can easily, safely afford this car without putting financial strain on your family or your business or your life, which, by the way, I would never recommend going into debt and paying like for luxury items when you don't have your house in order, or you don't have first things first. So just wanted to be clear there. This is not about spending money on watches and cars and whatever when you need to be, banking your mortgage. So back to the point, that wasn't my case. It was really more so about fear and people and what other people thought and what I was afraid of them thinking of me or saying to me. So I broke down each thought individually and was willing to walk through that emotional experience of, okay, my dad isn't going to like this. My mom isn't going to like this. That's okay. I'm not here to please them. And maybe they will like it. And maybe it doesn't really matter whether they will or won't. My investors, they want to see me successful, and they know I'm making money in other ventures too. And they know that I would never put any of their investment money into a car, which would be embezzlement and fraud. That's just a ridiculous thought. I can dismiss that thought. I can change that thought. Then I started to think about, well, what would be good about getting this car? What would be a positive about getting this car? And I thought about, okay, the people that are following me, that's inspiring. They're following in my footsteps. They're trying to live a lifestyle with multifamily and real estate. And they see that the guy that they're listening to is successful, that he's making money, that he's doing it, that he's living out dreams and he's doing what he wants to do. And that's cool. That's going to build confidence in me and my brand. So that could be a positive. I also thought about my children, the relationship that I have with them. Like, it's really cool. I take them out, we go get ice cream or grab a Coke, go to the park, and they feel special, right? They feel really cool riding in this Ferrari. It's a 458 white Spider with a black interior, a retractable roof. It's awesome. It's loud. It's obnoxious. It's fast. It's really, really cool. And the kids love it. And I love it. And I think about my wife, taking her out on a date. She's having a great time. It's really, really cool. It's a neat experience. It just brings a whole nother level to what we're doing. And for me, finally me, I feel rich when I'm sitting in that thing. I feel, in a way, successful. It makes me feel successful. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel like I've made it, in a way. As silly as that sounds, it just does. Okay, so we know the fear is not helping us. The fear is not serving us. Those feelings that we're having, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of others, they're not pushing us towards our goals. And yet, we can't help the way we feel. So how can we help the way that we feel? What I want you to do is something called thought auditing. When you have something in your life that you want to do, it's in your path of progress, it's in your goals, it's where you're going, and yet you're not taking the action that you need to take to get it done. I want you to audit the thoughts that you're having. I want you to audit the emotions that you're having around that scenario right before it happens. Because every circumstance, whether good or bad, is not good or bad. It just is, until you start devoting thought to it, until you start devoting emotion to it. That's what is making it good or bad. So let's say I started the Facebook group and the Facebook group failed. Well, your first reaction might be, well, that's a bad thing. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Because if it had failed, what would I have learned? Well, I would have learned resilience. I would have gotten experience. I would have figured out why it failed. I would have known what to do better the next time. I would have decided and figured out that's not what I wanted to do. And I would have found out that I wanted to build a platform on Instagram, or whatever would have happened, but at least I was taking action. At least I was making progress. And so I was getting closer to success. And then when you start to reframe it to, wow, even if my worst case scenario comes true, it's going to be okay. And you start reframing those thoughts around that, it gives you the courage and the emotional fortitude to take that action. So when I say audit your thoughts, audit your emotions, I mean write them down. Write down the circumstances that you think would be so terrible that is causing you not to take the action. Maybe it's rejection. Maybe it's embarrassment. Maybe it's pain. Write those things down and then work on reframing those, mentally reframing those scenarios to see the good, to see the positive, to see what would happen even if this terrible scenario happened. Then take it a step further and write down, hey, what if it actually worked? What if you did make a whole bunch of money? What if you did close a whole bunch of apartments? What if you did buy the Ferrari? What if you did pursue your dreams and you weren't scared and you weren't afraid? What if that muscle got stronger and as you continued to do it, you got more traction, momentum, and strength? Because the feelings are so important only because they generate action or lack of action. You have to pay attention to your feelings and you have to pay attention to the thoughts that are generating those feelings if you want to take the actions to go where you want to go. Everything that you want, everything that I want, everything that we all want is on the other side of fear. And the insidious thing is most of this fear is totally irrational. It makes no sense. And when we write it down and we process it and we think it through and we use our logical brain instead of our lizard brain, it becomes a lot clearer what we need to do. And it becomes a lot easier to press through those emotions and see, hey, it's going to be okay. This is what I want to do. And I'm making this decision as a logical, rational person versus an emotional, fearful person. Because when we can change our thoughts, which we can change, can't change our emotions in the moment, but we can change our thoughts. And when we learn how to change our thoughts, to audit our thoughts, to ladder our thoughts over to something that's serving us, we change everything. So that's what I got for you guys today. Next episode, we're going to be talking about your business sucks and why you should quit. And that is serious. I'm serious about that. Your business might suck and you might need to quit it. So don't tune in if you're not ready to make changes, because we're going to be hitting some hard subjects. This is something that I personally went through. So let's talk about that. All right, guys, make it a great week, and we'll see you next time.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.